The gunshot shattered the silence of the parking garage like thunder in a cathedral. Marcus Sullivan's instincts kicked in before his mind could catch up, his body dropping into a crouch behind a concrete pillar as three armed men dragged a woman toward a black van. Her muffled screams cut through the air, and in that split second, Marcus saw the terror in her eyes. He was just there to pick up his daughter from her piano lesson in the building above. He was tired, barely scraping by on his security guard salary, haunted by memories of Afghanistan and the weight of raising 7-year-old Emma alone. But some things you don't walk away from, no matter how heavy your own burdens feel. Marcus had been out of the Marines for 3 years, medically discharged after an IED took his hearing in his left ear and left shrapnel scattered through his leg. The nightmares still came most nights, but Emma's laughter was the only medicine that ever really worked. They lived in a cramped apartment in Pittsburgh, surviving on his modest income and veteran benefits that never quite stretched far enough. Emma's mother had left when their daughter was 2, unable to handle Marcus's PTSD and the struggles of military life. Now it was just the two of them against the world, and Marcus poured every ounce of strength he had left into being enough for his little girl. If you believe in courage, second chances, and the power of one moment to change everything, please hit that like button, drop a comment below, share this story, and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world. The training never leaves you. Marcus moved with precision through the shadows of the parking garage, his damaged legs screaming in protest as he closed the distance. The kidnappers were professionals but distracted, focused on their struggling captive. He recognized her face from the business magazines at the grocery store checkout lines, Victoria Chen, the CEO of one of the largest tech companies in the country, worth billions. In that moment, though, she was just a terrified human being who needed help, and Marcus had taken an oath long ago to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. What happened next was a blur of motion and muscle memory. Marcus disarmed the first man with a swift strike to the wrist, catching the falling weapon and using it to cover the others. The second kidnapper lunged at him, and Marcus felt his Marine Corps hand-to-hand combat training take over. His leg gave out halfway through, sending bolts of white-hot pain up his spine, but he pushed through it the way he'd pushed through everything else in his life. The third man grabbed Victoria, pressing a knife to her throat. But Marcus had already calculated the angle, the distance, the risk. One shot, clean and controlled, struck the knife from the man's hand. Within minutes, it was over. The kidnappers fled, and Victoria Chen collapsed against the concrete pillar, gasping and shaking. Marcus helped her to her feet, his leg buckling as sirens wailed in the distance. She stared at him with wide eyes, taking in his worn security guard uniform and the way he gripped his thigh where blood was seeping through his pants from where his old wounds had torn open. He asked if she was okay, told her the police were coming, and started to limp away. He had to get Emma. He had to make sure his daughter didn't see him like this, bloody and shaking. But Victoria grabbed his arm, her voice hoarse but insistent. She asked his name. She asked why he'd risked his life for a stranger. Marcus just shrugged and said it was the right thing to do, that he hoped someone would do the same for Emma if she ever needed help. The police came, statements were given, and Marcus finally made it upstairs to get his daughter, an hour late and trying to hide his limp. Emma ran to him with her usual enthusiasm, chattering about the new song she'd learned, oblivious to the fact that her father had just fought off armed kidnappers. That night, after he tucked her into bed with their nightly ritual of reading 2 chapters from whatever book they were working through, Marcus sat in their small kitchen and let the weight of the day crash over him. He wondered if he'd done the right thing, risking himself when Emma needed him so desperately. He wondered what would have happened to her if those men had been better shots, if his luck had finally run out. 3 days later, Victoria Chen showed up at his apartment. She'd tracked him down through the police report, and she stood in his doorway in her elegant business suit, looking completely out of place in his shabby hallway with its peeling paint and flickering fluorescent lights. She told him she wanted to thank him properly, but Marcus insisted no thanks were necessary. Emma peeked around his legs, curious about the fancy lady talking to her dad. Victoria smiled at his daughter, and something shifted in her expression, a softening that made her seem less like a billionaire CEO and more like a regular person who understood what mattered. Victoria asked Marcus about his life, and slowly, over coffee at his scratched kitchen table while Emma colored nearby, the story came out. The military service, the injury, the struggle to make ends meet while being both mother and father to Emma. The way he'd applied for dozens of better jobs, but his PTSD and lack of college degree kept closing doors. The medical bills from his service-related injuries that still arrived regularly. The fear that he wasn't giving Emma the life she deserved. The constant anxiety that he wasn't enough. Victoria listened to everything with an intensity that made Marcus uncomfortable. She didn't offer pity, which he appreciated, but she did offer something else entirely. A job, she said, head of security for her entire company, with a salary that made Marcus's head spin. Full medical benefits that would cover his ongoing treatment and therapy. A signing bonus that would clear his debts and then some. More importantly, flexible hours so he could be there for Emma, resources to help him continue healing from his trauma, and the chance to lead a team and use his skills to protect people again in a meaningful way. Marcus was overwhelmed, skeptical that this wasn't some temporary gratitude that would fade. But Victoria was persistent. She explained that she'd built her company on recognizing talent and character wherever she found it, and Marcus had both in abundance. She'd spent 3 days researching him, talking to his former commanding officers, learning about the decorated Marine who'd carried 3 wounded soldiers out of enemy fire before taking the blast that ended his service. She saw who he really was, beneath the struggles and the scars, and she refused to let that potential go to waste. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in the power of kindness and courage, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and subscribe to see more inspiring stories like this one. Your engagement truly helps us continue sharing these powerful moments. The job changed everything. Within months, Marcus and Emma moved to a better apartment with a bedroom for each of them and windows that actually let in sunlight. Emma enrolled in a school with art programs and music classes, her natural talents finally getting the support they deserved. Marcus found healing not just in the financial stability but in the purpose. In leading a security team and mentoring younger veterans who were struggling just like he had been. The nightmares didn't disappear entirely, but with access to better therapy and a life that felt worth living again, they loosened their grip. Drop a comment below and tell us, have you ever witnessed or experienced a moment where one act of courage changed everything? Years later, Marcus would stand at Emma's high school graduation, watching his daughter accept a full scholarship to study music at a prestigious university, and he'd think back to that moment in the parking garage. He'd been at his lowest point, barely holding on, convinced he'd never be enough for the daughter he loved more than life itself. But sometimes life puts you exactly where you need to be, at exactly the right moment. Sometimes the courage to do the right thing, even when you're broken and afraid, opens doors you never knew existed. Victoria Chen didn't just give Marcus a job that day. She gave him back his dignity, his purpose, and his future. And in saving her life, Marcus discovered that maybe, just maybe, he'd saved his own too. Emma would grow up knowing her father as a hero, not because he fought off kidnappers, but because even when life knocked him down, he never stopped fighting for what mattered, never stopped showing up, never stopped believing that tomorrow could be better than today.